Adam Gold Show on this Monday. Paul Ihander in for Adam today. Graham Hill here taking Victoria's slot. It's great to have all of you aboard with us. Continuing our chat about the Carolina Panthers. Joining us from Panthers.com is the illustrious writer himself, Darin Gantt. And Darin, you were able to see firsthand, be the witness to greatness that is Julius Peppers in terms of legacy and having that moment for him. In terms of North Carolina, you place him right at the top, right, when it comes to figureheads of this state.
Oh, yeah, no question. I mean, he's up there, Jordan, Phil Ford, Charlie Justice. I mean, it's Mia Hamm. I guess we can count her since she went to UNC. It's about as good as it gets. And, to see Jordan backstage, hugging up on Pep during the enshrinement ceremony, it's like a full circle moment because we did our best to say everything you could say about Julius Peppers in the couple weeks leading up to enshrinement. You can check out all our coverage at Panthers.com/Road to Canton. I don't know if that's the exact address, but you can find it. But as much as you can say about Julius Peppers, and we did our best, he was just different. I mean, that's the only way to put it. So guys who are 6'7", 290, 295 pounds aren't supposed to be able to run 4.7 40s. Guys who get 159.5 sacks aren't also supposed to intercept 11 passes in their career, Defensive linemen who coming at the end of long drives are usually tired aren't supposed to block 13 kicks over the course of their career. I mean, all pro defensive ends not supposed to be able to also be a power forward on a Final Four basketball team in college. And that's just been his career. He is a mythical figure, make no mistake about it. And it's been kind of cool seeing him kind of come to grips with that. Julius, as you guys know, anybody who's seen him over the years know that he's a private guy, not a big talker. But I think when you saw his speech on Saturday, that was kind of the essence of Julius that was always in there and that he's only now coming to grips with sharing with people. So it was absolutely cool to see, to be standing in the room when he put his own bust on the wall, was moving. It was a special moment for him, special moment for all the fans throughout the Carolinas.
Yeah, nice moment for Julius Peppers. Darin Gantt joining us, Panthers.com. So, Darin, let's switch gears here to the game on Thursday, in which...
Do we have to?
No, we do.
Do we have to?
We do.
And by the way, I really enjoyed joining you guys this afternoon. Even without Adam and Victoria, it's kind of like the preseason. You got to work on depth in August. You got to make sure you got sufficient depth to get you through a season. So that's why I enjoy talking to you.
Yeah, I throw a pretty good deep ball. Just my footwork needs a little bit mechanically sound. So let's talk about that footwork for a little bit. Bryce Young may or may not get some snaps in that preseason game on Thursday, but we're a little thinner at quarterback than I think Dave would want to be. So they bring in Jake Luton who played for the team last season, not under this current regime. Did you know that he had a Cameo account that you could get a $49 personal message from?
Jake Luton? That's
yes.
Outstanding. I may have to tap into that. Is there an employee discount at work here? Can I? Yeah, I don't know. But so $49 for a Jake Luton cameo. We'll have to definitely look into that. But no, I think this preseason, I mean, the trend throughout the league really has been getting away from putting starters out there for too much. You go from 4 preseason games to 3, and one of these days we'll probably go to 2 once they're playing 18 regular season games. So I just think league-wide, most coaches would prefer not to put their quarterbacks out there at all. A lot of starting quarterbacks will not take a single snap in the preseason. And frankly, if that's what it turns into with Bryce, it won't necessarily surprise me. On the other hand, Dave Canales kind of acknowledged. He said, listen, he's got to get used to working with Austin Corbett at center. He's got to get used to running a brand-new offense. And in case anybody's forgotten, the last 2 times Bryce Young played in a football game against other people and didn't score a point. So I think there's something to be said for both halves of this equation, but it wouldn't surprise me in the least if the Carolina Panthers just decide to keep him tucked away on the sidelines and watch an awful lot of Jack Plummer and Jake Luton in the preseason, whether you pay $49 for it or not.
Darin Gantt, Panthers.com, Ask the Old Guy, part of the Panthers.com mailbag. I've always wanted to say that. I've always heard Adam say it. Now I finally get the chance to. And Darin, I don't know if it's so much preseason.
Unlike Adam, you're not older than me, though. That's the only problem.
Fair enough. I don't know, and also I don't know if it's preseason. I think we're just fitting the theme of Olympics. Maybe not the Adam Gold show, but maybe it's the bronze or silver show. I don't know. I'll leave that up to the listeners to decide.
I see what you did there. Very nice. That's what I'm talking about.
I've worked in radio a little bit now.
We're getting good reps here.
Exactly. Well, now let's see if I don't mess it up. I did want to ask you, there was a lot of bucket hats and ball caps on the practice field today after a handful of veterans got maintenance days today after a jam-packed practice on Sunday. I just wanted to go over with you, are there any Band-Aids or boo-boos that we need to be concerned about for the Carolina Panthers heading into preseason game number 1?
Well, I think obviously there's some injury stuff. The guys who are still on PUP or NFI list aren't going to be playing on Thursday night. Canales basically said Xavier Leggett's not going to play on Thursday. He kind of tweaked a foot a little bit, but all the tests came back negative. No big structural anything with him. But, again, anybody who's even close to being questionable physically ain't going to play Thursday night. So, if you want to, there's still reasons to watch. It's still football, and I know everybody's been jonesing for that all summer, despite the fact that there's plenty of stuff to watch, including the Olympics. I think you get a chance to look at depth. You get a chance to look at some competition for some down-the-line guys. They've got decisions to make at wide receiver, and that's a pretty deep room. When you think about, the first 3 spots without Leggett in the mix are going to be Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, Jonathan Mingo, who's had a pretty good spring and summer. Beyond that, there are 4 or 5 guys who are out there making legitimate cases for themselves every day in practice for roster spots, and you ain't going to be able to keep them all. So I think stuff like that's obviously what you tune in for in August while everybody really goes into a maintenance mode. Think about it. After this game with the Patriots is over for the Panthers on Thursday night, they've got a week until, they'll play the Jets in their second preseason game, but there's a joint practice between now and then. So, coaches would much rather put their quarterbacks in a situation like that for game-like snaps, but in a controlled situation where everybody knows quarterbacks aren't getting hit.
Darin Gantt, Panthers.com, joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. Paul Ihander filling in for Adam today. So take us into camp. Beyond all the back-and-forth position battles that are happening, can you pinpoint the difference between this year's preseason fall camp and last year's camp?
Well, again, a year ago this time, we thought this all made sense. We didn't know how it was going to unfold at the time, and Frank Reich and an all-star cast of offensive coaches seemed like a great idea. It turned out not to be the case. The difference is I think there is a different energy, obviously. Some of that comes from guys wanting to prove that they aren't 2-15 football players, and some of it is just Canales. And one of the things that's interesting to me about Dave is he's young, he's good-looking, he's bouncing around in his tight shirt and all that kind of stuff. And it's easy to think, okay, this is an act. This is just a young guy trying to act young. Dave's got a very deliberate sense of practice. And, it's interesting to me that he never puts on a raincoat when it rains. He's always out there wearing the same version of shorts and a long-sleeve dry fit every day. The colors change, but the outfit's the same. And he said something early in practice. He said, I want our guys to work the same way despite any distractions. So if it's raining, I don't want to act different when it rains. If it's hot, I don't want to act different when it's hot. So I think it's an interesting message, and he's been very intentional about keeping the focus on the work. Already, it's not like Dave, he's smooth and he's good at selling a vision to these guys, but it doesn't feel like you're being sold things. So when Dave Canales says, and we've heard it a million times, we got to get the ball right, he's putting an emphasis on the work. He's putting an emphasis on precision in practice. He's putting an emphasis on being really focused about improving technically rather than just clapping his hands and jumping up and down and yelling and hoping that's going to inspire everybody to a different performance.
Panthers.com, Darin Gantt joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. Speaking of Canales and Coach Dave, and it's the one thing that I had a little bit of trouble yesterday when he spoke to the media on Sunday, and you talk about precision and getting the ball right and whatnot. He talked about maintaining intensity from the first quarter right on through the fourth quarter on Thursday. Like that was the expectation that they were going to, just maintain this entire energy. And I struggle with that because of how many interchangeable parts come in the preseason where it's literally an audition every moment, every minute to where I'm not sure that one guy's going to be able to play with another guy because they've only spent maybe 2 or 3 or 4 reps with each other the entire preseason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's the reality of it. And that's why you got to be careful when you're evaluating preseason snaps, because these are unusual combinations of people. These are, and they're kind of looking at these guys on an individual basis. I mean, when you get into a regular season, you'll judge an offensive line based on, okay, these are the 5 guys you expect to be in that situation, how they play. These are guys, a lot of these people, who might even be lining up with twos may not necessarily be on the roster in 4 weeks. So I think it's an individual evaluation, and they're just trying to go through and make them as well as they can, knowing the situation's up in the air. And I think that's why Dave talks about that so much, because he wants to keep guys locked in on what they're doing, everybody do their part, all those cool coach things to say. But it comes across as a genuine thing, and players are responding to it that way, and I think that's credit to Dave.
Darin Gantt, Panthers reporter, Panthers.com. Read everything you need there from him. He's at every practice, and we appreciate that work because without that, we don't know what the hell we're talking about, Darin.
There's a lot of that going around, though. That doesn't keep a lot of people from talking.
Well, we at least try to stick to the facts most of the time.
I love it. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks. Darin Gantt, Panthers reporter, Panthers.com.